The CHIPS and Science Act included $50 billion for Chips for America Fund, $39 billion for implementation for manufacturing incentive programs, and $11 billion for R&D and workforce development. $39 billion, that's a huge investment in chips manufacturing. However, the costs of manufacturing is very high, more than will be covered by this investment. We need industry to capitalize on the investments made in chips. In the last year, CHIPS Program Office has staffed up and released 2 Notice of Funding Opportunity announcements. One of those was for the $39 billion for the Semiconductors Financial Assistance Program, which has received hundreds of statements of inquiry. In your perspective, have the investments made through CHIPS and Science Act incentivize and catalyze the investment of private capital in the CHIPS economy on the scale that we need?
So it's a great question. Yes. So let me say, although $39 billion is an enormous amount of taxpayer money and it's an unprecedented program, it really is a drop in the bucket, relative to the mission we have to meet. Since the president signed the CHIPS and Science Act, there's been more than $300 billion of private investment announced into the semiconductor industry. So that's why I answer yes to your question. Like, if we continue to go on a path that for every dollar we invest, there's $10 or more of private capital, then, I feel good about that. But it is necessary, which is why, my job is to cut the best deal possible for the taxpayer,
Right.
to draw in as much private capital as possible.
How does our investment compare with China's investment today?
Much lower, much lower. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but China, I think China I'll get to the exact number, but I think they have like a $145 billion fund just for semiconductors. And they've announced massive investments, state subsidies in legacy chips and mature node chips, so much lower. But, our private sector is the envy of the world. We're not a, state-run economy, nor do we want to be one. So we will compete and win, and we're not going to go toe-to-toe with them for public money. We're going to out-innovate them and draw in private sector capital, which is why the question you're asking is so hard. So it's the right question, and we have to make sure it happens.
How do we make sure that we meet the workforce requirements when we go forward? I know that was brought up before. And how can Congress be part of the solution?
I think Congress needs to continue to fund workforce, apprenticeships, job training. These aren't social programs. These are essential business investments for America to compete. When I think about, if you say to me, Secretary, what is success in implementing the CHIPS Act, it isn't just incentivizing a dozen new fabs. It's getting colleges and universities to put out 3 times as many engineers. It's getting, every community college in America to have a semiconductor technician certification program. It's getting high school students, to be taught vocational training and things that relate to the chip industry. So I'd say continue to fund it and don't look at it as a soft investment. It's actually every bit as important to invest in our people as it is in our tanks and missiles and, hardware.
Great. Appreciate that perspective, and I yield back.